Should be back. They got me. Republicans are on me now, right? We'll give it a chance for everyone to come back. That wasn't the internet. That was OBS. Petered out on me. I don't know what was going on. So we'll give everyone a chance to come back. What's up? They got me. OBS got me. They got me. By the way, look at this pimple on my head. What the? I got one on my nose, too. Put my hat down. No one can see my oily ass. Thank God I'm married. I'm an unattractive troll. I don't think... Maybe I used to be handsome when I convinced my OBS God Jesus. Yeah. What happened to the buckos? Spin nutting, win nutting. That's Bob Nutting. They're on it. So where was I? College campuses, the protests that are going on. I just want you for a moment to consider that a group of conservatives, a group of Christians, we'll say. Let's say a group of Christians decided they were going to overturn courtyards and a dozen campuses across the country. Prevent people from crossing, getting to class, etc., etc. What do you think the reaction would be? What do you think the reaction would be from the very people like, for example, Mehdi Hassan, who's out there today going, my goodness, this is a heavy-handed overreaction by police. What do you think their reaction would be? What do you think? You know what the reaction would be. We all know. We saw it. The same. You think, Khalil? You think Mehdi Hassan would go, wow. You think Chris Hayes would be out there going, hey, let these right-wing students take over campus. That's a normal prospect of protest on campus. Checking something real quick. So then we saw at UCLA, apparently. A bunch of left-wingers suppose... Oh, here's another thing to talk about. I don't trust either side on this. Both sides have an agenda to... You'll see these, 2-minute clips of, it looks like someone's getting beaten. It's like, look at what these pro-Zionist people did to this woman. Or the police slamming someone to the ground. And it's like, well, maybe it looks bad, but what happened right before that? Now, there's some things you don't need context for, right? Guy goes up, punches 5-year-old kid in the face. I don't need to see how that kid heckled him because that's not an acceptable response no matter what. But someone throwing a woman on the ground and handcuffing her as she yells, but I'm a professor! What am I supposed to do with that information? Maybe she threw something in the officer's face right before that. Don't know. So there were allegations at UCLA that a Jewish student was beaten, a Jewish woman. Police were just letting the encampments go. Okay. Next day, a bunch of people show up. Mutual combat. Sort of the Proud Boys mentality. Now, I'm not for this necessarily. If it was Pisco's son, I would strongly adopt for adoption for someone to get that son out of Pisco's family. But still wouldn't be for the kid. He's already gone through enough with that sort of father. So certainly wouldn't want him abused. This is what happened where we saw over and over and over you had right-wing groups that were predominantly peaceful, and then Antifa-type groups would show up and start fights. So then you had an organization like the Proud Boys that said, then we'll show up and we'll fight them. And what was the response? Almost every institution in this country said, Proud Boys are terrorists. Antifa, that's just an idea. That's what Christopher Wray said. But the Proud Boys were terrorists. And when the cops would come, Antifa would basically be left off the hook more often than not. Proud Boys go to prison. The lesson learned was, yes, Tiku, we'll talk about the James O'Keefe story tomorrow. Lesson learned was left-wingers are allowed to protest, they're allowed to use violence, they're allowed to agitate, etc. But as the right, you can't defend yourself. Heck, you can't even protest. If you protest, you have to just accept getting the shit beat out of you. But you're not going to become a martyr. Understand, what most of these left-wing protesters want is, the end goal is, they want the police to remove them. And you could already see the video of it. Okay, you're trespassing, you need to get out of here. No. We're victims, we need food sent to us. Oh my God, we're starving, we're dehydrated, this is terrible. Okay, you need to go home. You can't be in the building, you can't occupy the building. You gotta go. No. Okay, police are gonna come in and drag you out of there then. You're trespassing, it's a crime. We're gonna remove you. Can't be on someone else's property like this. And then what do? They scream, no, you're hurting me, no. That's what they want. That's when the cameras turn on. They don't want the cameras there. Just like Black Lives Matter. I did a whole spiel about this. One of the first things they would do in Black Lives Matter when they saw cameras, they'd open umbrellas and cover up. By the way, how convenient. The old COVID wear a mask thing. Now we got a bunch of people running around in masks so you can't identify them. That's the whole point, though. Cover up until that moment. Because the number one currency is victimhood. So, again, I can't show you. They do this. I saw this video, right? Where it was this. It was two, I don't know if they were Jewish or just anti-protesters, but two guys that were standing up against the door as the anti-Israeli protesters were trying to get into this building, and they were blocking the door to the building. And what happens is, the anti-Israeli protesters, they get behind it, they like wedge in with their shoulders. They go like this. They hold their hands like this. And they wedge in behind them. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. That's assault. That's assault. Don't touch me. You can't touch me. And then they just do that. They keep with their chests, they shove them out and out and out and out and out. That's what they do. Then the opposite occurs when they're blocking students. Someone will say, okay, I'm just trying to squeeze through. No, it's assault. You can't touch me. They do it to you. They keep getting in your face. Why are you touching yourself? Why are you touching yourself? They keep doing that. Get in your face. Why are you touching me? Why are you touching me? As they bump into you over and over. You're touching me. You're not allowed to touch me. As they come into your space and they push you and push you. What they want is you to push back. Then they're like, oh, see, I'm the victim. I'm the victim. Why? Because you're awful. Because they're Marxist. They're cultural Marxists. They believe they're victims. Therefore, they're morally justified in using any tactic whatsoever. You getting into their space is you being violent. Them getting into your space is free speech. It's the way they look at things. They'll be left off the hook. Most of them won't even be suspended from campus. Most of them will be given slaps on the... How many of them do you think, for example, let's say some of these things are true. For example, there are allegations, and I can't speak to this being true or not, that there are several instances where people were held hostage. Now, let's be clear. I don't know that means they were physically, had their hands tied behind their backs with the blindfold on and put in a dark room, like you might think of when you're thinking about a movie being held hostage. It could be something as simple as like what happened to Laken Riley, which she wasn't allowed to leave a room. They like pushed themselves up against the room and she couldn't get out. Stuck in there. Or there were people in that building that said, okay, I want to get out now. And they said, no, you can't get out. And they're going to say, we wouldn't want to leave them out because we thought once we left to open the door, other people would rush in. So no, door's closed, can't get out. That's still against the law. That's still, in effect, holding someone hostage, kidnapping someone. Let's say that happened. What do you think the punishment for those people will be? You think you're going to be looking at 3-4 years in prison like January 6 people? They smashed windows? They basically kidnapped someone? You think? There isn't a chance. We all know it. We all know it. What they're going to try to do is sort of the same thing the left always does when these tenure. They're going to, what you're likely to see here, clip it. What you're likely, you already saw it. Who was it? The Stormfront guys the other day? Remember we saw them marching again? That's what you'll see. Some right-wing bad group's going to do something bad here in the next month. You'll see. Meanwhile, they'll try to smooth all this over. Yeah, we'll give in to some of your demands and, and we're giving more aid to Gaza. We're giving more aid. Oh, we're going to criticize Netanyahu. Yeah, we'll divest some from these groups, but it really won't be. But look at those evil right-wingers. Oh, boy. Look at them. That's what's going to happen. It's so bad for conservatives right now that someone like me, who likes to come on here and talk about free speech issues and talk my honest opinion of what I think's going on in the country, what do I say when people are like, Rob, are you going to the rally? You going to this rally? I said, don't go. It's probably a setup. You can go to jail. But I won't do anything illegal. Doesn't matter. Some Fed in your group does something, you're going to prison. That's how bad things are free speech for us. We just assume, there'll be feds there. They're going to infiltrate your group. They're going to try to take you down. The left can show up, celebrate, shout, scream. There's no serious consequences. There won't be. Maybe some Jewish-owned law firms that support Yale and Harvard that are left-wingers themselves now won't hire some of these people if their face is shown. And that's it. I'm sure they'll get jobs elsewhere. You go to a right-wing rally, you get the shit beat out of you, no problem. The person will be given a slap on the wrist. You fight back, you're going to go to prison. How much does anyone want to take a gentleman's bet with me that there will at least be one group of these people on college campuses that we're hearing about now that the police arrested that will end up suing and getting large sums of money? Want to bet? How much you want to bet? Police use too much violence. You want to bet? They'll walk away with huge sums of money. January 6th, if you walked up an hour into, like at 2 o'clock when all the fences were torn down and you just saw the doors open and you walked in, your ass going to jail. You ain't suing for money later. But not here. There ain't going to be FBI dossiers opened on these students. At least not yet. We all know the double standard. We all see it. I saw Hutch put, well, let's not pretend when the right did this at Charlottesville, there was no potential good reason. Please go on, Hutch. Explain to me. It's different when we do it. It's different when our side. I might not agree with the direction of the protest, but I could understand it comes from a good place. Now, when right-wingers do it, No, Charlottesville was a bunch of LARPers, including piece of shit alt-right people, and a bunch of piece of shit Black Lives Matter Antifa type lefties that showed up for mutual combat. That's what happened. That's what Charlottesville was. And we were told to believe that one side was good and the other side was bad, as opposed to the truth, which was both sides basically sucked, but there were a handful of reasonable people on both sides. There were people that just didn't want to see the statues torn down. Totally reasonable, because we could see what happened. As Trump said, next thing you know, they'll be coming for statues of the Founding Fathers. It's exactly what's happened. And there were reasonable people on the other side that said, we don't like the fact that a lot of these groups are anti-Semites. But notice when the left does it, it's always different. When Black Lives Matter was burning down cities, well, it's for a good cause. That might get out of hand, but it's a good cause. There is systemic racism. That's true. Our riots are different. Of course, they happen over and 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 over again. So there's way more of them, and there's way more damage caused by them, and there's way more support of them from people in high positions of power. Show me the person in a high position of power that supported Charlottesville. The only person you'll get is Trump, who they'll say he said there was good people on both sides, which was true, and he wasn't saying that the people in the alt-right were good. He specifically condemned them by name. Furthermore, with the same argument that Connor and Jebtan made the other night, which is always, always, always protect the groups that hate you and that are coming for you. Always, always, because we're principled. We have to. We're principled. Yes, what happened to the people on January 6th was terrible. We can't deal with that now. We can't deal with that. Republicans in Congress, we can't deal with that. We can't. Can't deal with that. Instead, we must focus on these pro-Palestinian protesters that would have your ass thrown in prison. We must say, no, what's happening is wrong. Yeah, you stupid motherfucker. Furthermore, the entire point of this video was criticizing this hate speech bill. You fucking idiot. Read the room. Yes, what happened? God, you were the most spineless. I fucking hate you people. And I'm taking it out on you. Furthermore, I don't really hate you. I'm being a little hyperbolic. Because I didn't get to take it out on Jebtan and Connor that much. I'm so fucking tired of it. I'm so tired of this attitude. You're worse. You're fucking worse than these people. Well, actually, just because Hillary should have went to jail doesn't mean that Trump shouldn't go to jail. No, Trump needs to go. That's the most important thing. Trump paid Stormy Daniels to send her to jail. Just because January 6 people got rid. What is it that you would like us to do? What is it, furthermore? What is it that you would like us to do? Apparently it's not enough to condemn and say these hate speech laws are fucking ridiculous, and Republicans don't give a shit about us, doing a whole video that'll probably get my channel canceled by saying, you know who killed the Jews, or Jesus, the Jews, because that's one of the things in the hate speech bill that we're not allowed to say. Spending an hour and a half ranting on about it, but as soon as I start to talk about the double standard, I have someone come in and go, well, just because that's what happened to January 6th. Oh, you just got in here. That's a more reasonable excuse, I guess. So stupid. It's why there is zero... okay, I won't say zero. There's less than a 5% chance that we ever end this corruption. It's just never going to end. There will always, it's not that I'm upset. Like I said, I'm taking out on you what I've been to. There's always going to be people like Furthermore. There's always going to be people like Connor. There's always going to be people like Jebtan. They are the most useful idiots in the world. Always. Always. No matter what. No matter what. They could come into every conservative house right now and take all of their children and lock them up. And conservatives could be on the street wailing, crying. Those that protest could get shot in the street. And then they could lock up for one night one of these Palestinian protesters, and I would be like, wow, my God, where was this outrage when they were literally taking children away from conservatives? And Furthermore go, well, let me say, just because it was wrong that they did that to conservatives,
doesn't mean that we shouldn't spend all of our efforts right now discussing why this is bad, what happened to these pro-Palestinian protesters that cheered as your children were taken away from you. We must stop and say what is happening to them is wrong. We don't have time to focus on the problems that harm you.
Wow, thanks furthermore. Really appreciate it, man. Hey, I think Connor and Jebtan would really like to hear from you. I think it's a great point. Yeah, I didn't think of it that way. You're right. How selfish of me to talk about how every institution in this country hates people like me and targets people like me and people are facing real how selfish of me to point that there was a double standard. My mistake. Why don't we contact those nonviolent people that were arrested for January 6th, many of which who are languishing in solitary confinement, and tell them, like, how dare you have any self-pity tonight, you selfish bastards? Don't you know that some student somewhere didn't get the bag of chips that they wanted because a police officer temporarily detained them? How dare you sit here and wallow in your own pity? Don't you know the real victim is the college student that's going to get a bailout and get their tuition refunded and, you know, Joe Biden's going to pay for all their student loans or whatever? Don't you know they're the real victim? Don't you know it? Wow, thanks. Thanks. Hot take. Thank you. Good stuff. Why do we lose? Any clue?
Well, we're principled. We're being principled. We're very principled about this.
I guess go back and watch the first half of the show furthermore. Don't know what to tell you. I'm still principled, I am. I'll still argue for what I believe. But it is moments like this and that debate I had the other day that really, really, really make me understand the appeal of the Christian nationalist. Like when I talk to like my friend Richie that's like, fuck it. There's always going to be someone who claims power. Why not us? Yeah, we'll pass hate speech laws. You can't criticize us. You said we couldn't criticize Israel. You said we couldn't criticize all of these minority groups. We'll say you can't criticize us. And I'm like, no, on principle, that's a bad idea, blah, blah, blah. But when I see people like Connor, and when I see people like Jebtan, and I see people like Furthermore here, it makes me be like, oh yeah, I get the appeal of that. Because we will constantly lose. We will. Tomorrow, a bunch of conservatives on campus could be handing out Bibles, be arrested, go to jail for 5 years for hate speech, and I've no doubt Furthermore would say, hey, that's wrong. But nothing would happen. Nothing. No one would give a shit in a prominent institution. The public narrative wouldn't really change. You'd have a couple people like me that would speak out against it on social media that have almost no following. Maybe one or two big channels would talk about it, and then tomorrow we'd be on to a different agenda. Because that's how life works. Then 3 days later, you could see a bunch of left-wingers that are occupying a building, smashing windows, get arrested temporarily for a night, then bailed out by a large organization and never face any serious consequences. And Furthermore would be sitting here going, actually, we need to stand up for their free speech. It's important. And you would have a bunch of people in power standing up for their free speech. You would. No one would be speaking for those conservatives. No one. No one in a position of power. Not the Republican leadership. Not the Democratic leadership. No one would be speaking for them. Furthermore would have moved on. Connor would move on. Jebtan would move on. All of the people like them would move on. But they would be quick to tell you, well, in order to be principled, you must stand up. Yeah, I get it. I am standing up for them. That's the whole point of the video. That's probably why I lose my channel. Because the anti-Semitism bill said, you can't say Jews killed Jesus. And I said, the entire theme of my show is going to be Jews killed Jesus. But that's not enough. We have to be principled. Thank you, JT Wynn. Appreciate it. Have to be. Have to be principled, Rob. You have to do more for the lefties that would throw your ass in prison. Those that wanted you to lose your child if you didn't take a vaccine. You must be principled and stand up for them. Thanks for the reminder. Thank you. I really needed it. I love that. And it pisses me off because I am principled. That's the whole point. I am. People like my friend Aftershock there would just be like, fuck you. Eat shit. That's what he'd say. But I'm principled. I'm doing the show that you're basically suggesting that I should. Telling me that I should need to do it more. If you didn't see, thank you so much, Lavin. Thank you for the gifted subs. And if you didn't see the whole point of the show or you couldn't intuit from the title of the show, okay, fine, I guess, whatever. Go back and watch, I guess. There was a guy, this shit happens all the time. I remember this guy called in one time, and we were talking about, remember when it was, January 6th people killed Capital City police officers, which never happened. Then, a couple months later, remember when a Nation of Islam guy killed a Capital City police officer, ran his car into them at a barrier? Remember that? Thank you, JT. I was wondering how that went, man. I'm glad the essay went well. I hope your professor checked out my channel. He or she probably wouldn't be happy to hear that I'm probably against all federal funding going to your university, but I digress. Anyways, so I'm making the point. It was like, oh, well, if that's the standard, you know, why don't we focus on this Nation of Islam member? And of course, I had some conservative that came on and go, well, Rob, actually, there's no proof this person killed the Capitol police officer because he was a member of Nation of Islam. And we must be very careful. Just because he belonged to this organization, we have to be careful, unless we can draw a direct line that the beliefs of Nation of Islam caused him to kill this particular Capital City police officer. We should be very hesitant to talk about this stuff. I've met people like that, JT Wynn. Don't believe in shoes. Nah, I never really listened to the Destiny debate, Nick Fuentes. Nick and them go too far. But they're not wrong on the point of we're not allowed to criticize Israel. It's true. It seems unique for some reason. We know why. No one gives a shit about us. No one cares. No one gives a shit. No one cares. No one. No one in a position of power gives two shits about any of you in this chat. None of you. They don't give a shit. If you're a lefty, they might pretend to, but they don't give a shit. They don't care. And if you're from my area of the world, no one even pretends to care. Rural Americans, racist, flyover country, 10-tooth rubes. You're the problem with the country. That's the treatment we get from every institution. From academia. From the entertainment industry. From the mainstream media, the majority of it. From social media. Hell, even the churches are leaning to becoming more progressive. Then when you sit back and you see two groups that hated you, establishment more oriented pro-Israel, big government cultural Marxist, that were perfectly fine with campuses denigrating white people or Christians or straight people or men or conservatives, perfectly fine with it. Perfectly fine to watch Black Lives Matter light fire after fire. Perfectly fine. Antifa didn't have a problem with it. As long as they were targeting conservatives, as long as they were used as a narrative to go after conservatives, perfectly fine. And then the opposite is, the people they're against now are the radical far-left ideologues that they've created that are now coming after them. And when people point out, like, oh,
well, we have to be the bigger people. We have to stick up for them. We have to.
yeah, no problem, JT Wynn would be happy to. The N-word's it's a good comparison. Saying things that are, quote, anti-Semitic, very similar to the N-word, in which all logic goes out the window. So we as civilized people, I don't give a shit your race, I don't care your sexual orientation, none of that matters. As civilized people, we can say, like, there are certain rules. Like, you can't just walk up and punch someone because you're not happy with what they said. Basically, all civilized people should agree with that, right? But there are exceptions. Oh, he said the N-word. Well. And you see this all the time. You see a video on X or some other place, and you'll see someone getting beaten. And it's a black guy beating someone. I wonder if they said the N-word. The NFL, there was a quarterback for the Steelers a few years ago, Mason Rudolph. Myles Garrett ripped his helmet off and then swung his helmet at his bare head, which could have seriously harmed him, obviously. What was Myles Garrett's excuse? Said the N-word. I remember there was a pitcher I liked for the Pirates, Jared Hughes. Got in a fight, I forget who the player was, happened to be a black player. Got in a fight, like, skirmish, the benches cleared, whatever. And the black player was like, he said the N-word. And then, like, you went back to the tape and they looked at his mouth and you could see he was just saying, fuck you, blah, blah, blah. Never seemed to mouth the N-word. All the players that were around, like, we didn't hear it. The umpires were like, we didn't hear it. But magically it was like, oh, okay. Well, if he said the N-word. And everybody knows it. We all have to just be like, oh, same with anti-Semitism. It's just, well, if you're an anti-Semite. And even the people that claim to hate identity politics like the Ben Shapiro's of the world, same shit. If I wanted to stand up and say, I criticize the Murdochs. Rupert Murdoch owned Fox News and his family. You criticize them, no one's accusing you of any form of bigotry. But if I criticize George Soros, anti-Semitism. Interesting. Isn't that neat? If I criticize Israel's lobbying group, anti-Semitism. That's not an argument. Maybe it is anti-Semitic. Maybe Ilhan Omar is an anti-Semite. Probably is. Okay? How is that a rebut to her argument that AIPAC basically spends too much money, has too much power? It's not a rebuttal. Are there people on these college campuses that are anti-Semitic? Of course. They're anti-white. Jews are white. That's how they look at it. What do you think if you drew a Venn diagram of all the people saying Israel committing genocide? If I could sit down with them and ask them, honestly, do you think the United States commits genocide as well? What do you think their answer would be? My guess is 95, if not more, of the percentage are saying Israel's committing genocide. Say the same thing about the United States. Yes, I'm certainly of that opinion, JT Wynn. We should stop giving all of these foreign aids. Instead, we're funding both sides of the conflict, which makes the conflict inevitable. But I stay principled to my ever fault. It's why I'll never achieve real power. Still got to stay principled. So excuse me if I get a little pissy when someone says I have to be principled while I'm staying principled, knowing it's a losing strategy. I know it is. Doesn't mean I got to put all my time and energy in it, but yeah, I'm principled. These laws are horseshit. And it's not just horseshit because it's predictable that it will inevitably be used against me and people like me. It's horseshit on face value. It would be garbage if it's never used against conservatives that I like. It's still garbage. You should be allowed to criticize the government of Israel. You should be allowed to say, I think Israel is a racist state. You should be allowed to say, I don't think Israel should exist as a country. You should. And if that law is never enforced on me and is only enforced on left-wingers that I don't like, it's still a travesty. And that is what separates me from those left-wingers who would, not all of them, but overwhelmingly support my incarceration if I violated what they deem to be a hate speech law. That's what separates me from them, and that's why they'll win and I'll lose. And just know that anytime there is an inkling that someone like me who takes that principled position, that there's an inkling of being like, well, I'm not going to spend all my time on this. There will be someone who claims to be from my side to say, aha! You're not principled enough. You must be. Yeah, sure, JT wouldn't be happy to do it someday. You must do everything. Sacrifice your entire life to protect these people and stick up for these people that hate you. You must. Of course, they won't. But I must. And you must. Anyone else who claims to be principled. It's imagine how I feel the Christian nationalists feel when they say, but what would when lefties that don't believe in Jesus say, oh, well, what would Jesus do? Well, would Jesus have borders or would he have open borders? Where you're just like, I'm not going to listen to you people. They didn't care about the radicals until now. They didn't care. They didn't care when there was riots at Berkeley in 2015 to prevent people from hearing, who was it, Milo Yiannopoulos, or when Gavin McInnes was beaten up, or when Ben Shapiro would people would riot, or Charles Murray and people would riot. Caitlin Bennett, people would riot. Leighton Riley, people would riot. They didn't give a shit. White, male, straight, heteronormative, don't give a shit, don't give a shit, don't give a shit, don't give a shit. Anti-Israel, woo! Says the Republican Party. That's their real constituency. It's surreal. It's surreal to watch these people. And I know it's not the Christian thing to say. I am human. I am flawed. And I know it's not the healthiest thing to say, even outside of Christianity, or the most moral thing to say, or the most strategic thing to say. But I would be lying if I told you that despite my principled position that I'll continue to fight against these sort of laws and the over-application of going after people for free speech, even if it's directed at people I don't like. I would be lying if I told you I'm not laughing my ass off watching them eat each other. I am. They deserve it. They deserve each other. Someone like Destiny, right, who, when I debated him, when the George Floyd riots were going on, said, rioting and voting are two sides of the same coin, he said. That's what he said. That's what he said. I said, I feel like these, I have the audio to prove it. I feel like these left-wing mayors and governors are allowing the riots to occur so they can blame it on Trump. Absolutely, he says. Now, where do you think he is today? I'm just guessing, seeing as how he's been defending Israel. He probably is very annoyed with many of these anti-Israeli protesters, particularly because they make his side look bad and hurt his side's chances of winning an election. Well, there you go. When it mattered, when the chips were down, where were you? Ah, it's hurting Trump. Oh, well. Yeah, that is when it was. June 20th. 20. I saw Mike Cernovich say this about the UCLA business. He said, okay, police stayed out of it. What happened? Well, a bunch of people that were fed up with the pro-Palestinian protesters went in and beat the shit out of them. Problem solved. But that's not the way it works. Those people will probably be identified and arrested. No, maybe not, because they'll be deemed pro-Israel, so maybe they get a pass. Black Lives Matter, we were told, no, leave them burn shit. You have to. You have to. Have to do it. I kept saying this is a big mistake. It's going to end up like the Rodney King riots. People are going to defend themselves. People are going to die. No, that's the fascist position, I was told. That's fascism. Okay, then Rittenhouse happened. What'd the left say? Left said the police shouldn't stop them. Donald Trump shouldn't send in the National Guard. That's authoritarianism. And then they said Rittenhouse shouldn't have defended himself. Remember when Vaj said that? Rittenhouse should have just sat down and took his beating. If they beat him to death, so be it. Shouldn't be allowed to defend property or the property of the people you want. Shouldn't be allowed. No cops, no self-defense. That's what happened to the McCloskeys in St. Louis, remember? People broke into their gated property. They brandished a firearm, didn't even discharge it. They were arrested. People that broke into their property, not arrested. See how it works? The only time these things change is when one establishment group is fighting with another. I do remember that, Crisco. They had to. They had to take the plea, right? But don't worry. Is all this that you point out, there's plenty of people that will tell you that they're on your side of this craziness, that'll say, but we can't ask for equal application of we can't ask for it. Right now, we have to be different. Right now, we have to just stick up. I mean, I don't know how to make it any more clear than the debate I had with Connor and Jebtan. Any minute crime, no matter how small, if every single person that walks into the Capitol building that's an elected official is supposed to put their keys in a dish to get scanned, and they don't. And it's a misdemeanor crime if you don't. And every day, every single person does it. Every single day. So you're talking thousands of people a day, 365 days a year. Beep, 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 beep. And Donald Trump does it once, and they arrest him. And the guy that arrested him ran on the promise of, I'll get Donald Trump for something. Connor and Jeb Tim would say, hey, the law's the law, and we have to start somewhere. We have to. That's what they'd say. World-renowned geohound. Why are these things happening? Because basically the people that run these institutions view themselves as a different species than the rest of us, or they view themselves as lords and we're serfs, and they want a globalist system where they have total control of power. That's what they want. And the number one impediment to that is people that are sort of self-sufficient middle class in first world countries, particularly the United States. So they want to erode national boundaries. They want to erode things that give people hope and pleasure and enjoyment and self-sufficiencies. Things like religion, things like the family, things like national identity. Those things are all stumbling blocks to it. And they know if they could break people down and make them victims and make them dependent on the government, then they have you. And then they could give you bread and circuses. Well, they go about controlling the world as they needle the population in the direction they want until they no longer need you. That's why it's occurring. Yeah, go back and watch the debate. See, anyone who thinks I'm exaggerating, that's exactly what Jeb and them said. I said, let's be honest, the Stormy Daniel charge, that's not that important of a charge. What would be far worse is if it's being weaponized by people to influence the election. That would be a far more serious crime. And both Jeb and Connor said, disagree. Have to enforce the law. Of course, Lavin. Of course. I said it over and over again in the summer of Floyd. That's exactly what happened. I said, what you're doing is when you tell one side, and I didn't come up with this. I remember listening to Richard Spencer back in the day, and there was this interview, and they asked him, they said, why is there so much more appeal? For those that don't know, Richard Spencer was considered one of the biggest white nationalists in the country. And they're like, why are you gaining support? He said, easy, Black Lives Matter. Simple. The more identity politics is played with black people, and the more that they denigrate white people, the more white people will say, well, we want to play identity politics too. We want to use the exact same tactics, except we claim to be the victims, and it's black people that and the institutions that are aggressive and racist against us. And that's exactly what's happening. Yeah, it is a very black-pilling puzzle. Now, I'm not saying I'm 100% guaranteed that my explanation is correct, but it fits all the pieces. Why would a country choose to purposely allow their borders to be eroded? How can a country that claims to care so much about things like terrorism that you can't go through an airport without basically getting filled up, who has to violate the Fourth Amendment to look at all your documents? That's how concerned they are with this, yet they don't give a shit about the border. Or let's even make it more simple. People in positions of power, in the Biden administration particularly, were saying that basically all of your movements had to be curtailed when it came to COVID, to the point where they were trying to push for a vaccine mandate that said that if you were employed at a company that had more than 50 people, you either had to take the vaccine or you had to be tested every week or you weren't allowed to work. Meanwhile, people coming through the border with no papers, no COVID tests, etc., were literally released into the country without any monitoring. How can that be? If you're so concerned about COVID... So the very first step in looking at it is like, well, they're not concerned about what they claim to be. If I thought COVID was like leprosy, do you think I would have been going to birthday parties and dinners at the French Laundry? Of course not. But that's what the elected leaders that were telling us we'd just stay locked in our home were doing. It's almost like they didn't take the threat that seriously. Why not? How many times, again, I'm not a white nationalist, let me be clear. But how many pro-Israel people can I post you saying things like, all we want is a country for Jews to call their own, where they should not have to be a minority in their own country. Now replace the word Jew with white. Well, that's racist. And yet all of these Jewish people that would be the first to denounce anyone who spoke up for a country for white people, they don't even see the problem. I could show you post after post. It's never ending. What's the purpose of Israel running NGOs to bring in more illegals in? Because Israel's part of that organization that I was talking about. It's not just Israel, it's the people in leadership of Israel. Just like the people in leadership of the United States. They don't give a shit about the people of the United States. The people of the government of Israel probably do care about the people of Israel. But it's not just some Jewish conspiracy or anything like that. It's a group of people that feel that they're lords and that they're better than you. And they, just like I was saying with the globalists, that's part of who they are, want to see an erosion of national barriers and want a globalist system that they're on the top of. And one of the biggest impediments to that is the middle class in the United States. So Israel has the same motivation as George Soros, as the politicians in the United States, as Bill Gates. Same motivation. Take the power away from blocks that could challenge you. Yes, it's true that no specific person in the middle class has the power to challenge these large organizations. But as a collective, they may. So make them no more middle class. Lower class, and then the few on top. What do I think the downsides of America losing its white majority status is? I don't know. Whites will be as bad as things are now for whites, how they're denigrated. Eventually, it'll be like South Africa, where you'll just have blatant laws that are like, "Fuck you, you're white. We're taking your property." There will be massive, even more hate crimes against whites that no one will really give a shit about, just like South Africa. But it has nothing to do with the skin color in the direction of the country and what will happen. The problem's not the skin color. The problem is the ideology. People that lived here for a long time, whether it be whites, blacks, Hispanic, I don't give a shit, right? When you massively import people that don't share those same cultural beliefs, and then those people that maybe would have those cultural beliefs, you, through all of these institutions, culturally and politically, denigrate to the point where you break them down. Hard work's not good. The family's not good. Don't procreate. Don't have children. You're a victim. That inevitably encourages that culture. That's the real problem. Whites will be part of that culture as well. There's already plenty of whites that are part of that culture. But the right won't get the chance to fight back, Lavin. They'll have to win culturally. Because right now, all of the institutions are on the side of the left. Literally, like, think of it, Lavin. The right had a protest on January 6th, and it has resulted in one of the biggest, in literally the biggest law enforcement operation in the history of this country, maybe the history of the world. And no one gives a shit. Not even us on the right. Not even me, really. I mean, I care, but do I really? How many videos have I done on each individual prisoner that's still locked up that's nonviolent? How are they going to take up arms, Lavin? They can't even peacefully gather when one or two people get out of control. How would you... It's not going to be a spontaneous thing, nor should it be. Every right-wing group out there right now that's saying, look, the Tree of Liberty needs to be refreshed by the blood of tyrants. Let's say there's 30 people in that group. 28 of them are feds. There's not going to be this spontaneous rising up of people. It's not going to happen. The better chance is the gradual cultural shift. But that's going to take a long time. It's not easy. No one wants to hear that. No one wants to hear the hard solutions. Just like when Ron Paul was running. Ron Paul was basically telling you, yeah, the economy's going to go in the shitter for quite some time if I'm elected. Because when you spend more than you have to spend less than you have to get back on track. No one wants to hear that. Everybody wants to hear, nope, as soon as I'm elected, things will be the greatest ever, trust me. Yep, that's right, Tika Duo and Schroyer locked up when he was telling people not to riot. Now, there could be a cultural movement to elect an actual competent authoritarian right-winger. That could happen. But every institution will challenge that person. In other words, what if Donald Trump was actually what they claimed he was? Someone that was willing to try to be an authoritarian and weed out anyone who didn't trust him. What would they be willing to do to that person? And then what happens? I'd love to go on Owen's show. I really respect Owen. Trump would be based, wouldn't he, though? So I got to apologize to Furthermore. I shouldn't have bit your head off, man. Especially once you said you hadn't seen most of the show. But it's so annoying. I don't know, though. If I'm really honest, I do the same shit. Not really, but kind of. Like, for example, there's this libertarian guy I like named Anomaly. Hopefully I'll get to do a show with him at some point. And Anomaly's out there today is like Matt Walsh and Charlie Cook are like, whoa, this anti-hate speech bill is ridiculous. And Anomaly's like, but I've been saying this since 2019. Where were you? Which is fair. Now, part of me is like, okay, but right now they're on the right side of this, and it's important to get as many voices as possible, seeing as how every elected Republican, not every, but the majority of them are totally on board with this. But I do the same thing. I'll see someone go, oh my goodness, COVID, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, where were you when it mattered? I know where I was in March and April of 2020. I know what I was saying. I was criticizing Trump. I was criticizing about lockdowns. So now I see a bunch of right-wing people that are like, oh, lockdowns were bad and Trump shouldn't have endorsed. Where were you, though? So I get it. And the same criticisms could be made of me. It's like, okay, but is that really the most prudent thing? Yeah, I hear you wonder. That shit happens. It's like Cernovich. I like Cernovich, but man, he'll fly off the handle. Worse than me. I mean, I'm sitting here yelling. Cernovich is just block you, call you a piece of shit for little things. But again, I am flying off the handle, so who am I to criticize? I don't know. I just don't know. Anyways, so here's the plan. I got to tell you all a little, no one's going to want to hear this, but I got to talk a little about my life here for a second. I do home health care. It means when I'm at work, I have to be there 24/7, even though I'm not on the clock for 24 hours. I get 8 hours off while I'm there. So normally I sleep like 5-6 hours, so I'll be able to stream a couple hours. Sometimes not, though. Sometimes I'm up until like 4 in the morning. Then I got to be up for work at 6, which is stupid. But most of the time, if I stream there, it's a reasonable amount of sleep I'm still getting, and it's in the off hours. I've cut back on that for various reasons, but I am trying to commit to doing at least 3 live streams a week. This week it won't be a problem. Tomorrow there was supposed to be a debate. It fell through. That's on Wick and Pondering Politics. Blame them. Thank you, John Tusher. Yeah, I was happy to do so. Tiberius, I use the word monstrous too much when talking to Tiberius, but it's a good word to explain what he was. So we'll just do a regular show tomorrow. My plan is to talk about the James O'Keefe tape and then maybe some of the stuff about the Trump trial, the classified documents trial. That's on the agenda for tomorrow. Friday, no plans. We'll come up with an idea for a show. And then Saturday, I'll take off. Here's my work schedule coming up. Tomorrow is a day off, though I've been asked to come in and may have to go in for a couple hours. Okay. Friday, I have to go in for some medical stuff, and then I have to travel 2 hours to the office, 2 hours back. So I'm probably going to put in about a 6-hour shift Friday. Saturday, I should have off. That's going to be yard work day. Sunday, I go into work. So Sunday's date is... Let's get this right. Sunday's the 5th. I will go in around 3 o'clock on Sunday. I will be there 24 hours. 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, the 11th, the 12th, the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th. So, I'm going to try to stream when I can. Yeah, maybe I'll do the short thing again Friday. Yeah, Zen. But it's tough. The problem is the home healthcare setting that I'm in right now, the house, there's only 2 of us. And if one of us has to take a week off, I have to work my 3.5 days, then their 3.5 days, then my 3.5 days. So, I'll try to stream as much as I can in that time. The quality won't be as good. It'll be when I clock out at work. It's on my work setup. That computer sucks. But it's all I could do. No, my employer doesn't have close to enough people. In fact, not only that, I don't even know what's going on with my company. I don't know how long it's going to last because we're supposed to have something like 12 supervisors. We're down to 1. My supervisor just left the company because he was being overworked. Now we have new people coming in. I don't know. So I do apologize. If I had a 9-to-5 job, it makes things simpler. You work 40 hours, 9 to 5. You stream at 8. 8 to 10, 8 to 11. 3 hours, 5 days a week. No problem. Any job prospects? Not really. Overtime hitting. Yeah, I'm still broke as a joke, believe it or not. Just catching up on things. It's just the way it is, man. Tough times. But it's my fault. I drank a lot in college. If I showed you a list of everyone that debated and was in the debate program while I was there, except one person, everyone's doing phenomenally. They're making 6 figures. I think I was clearly the best debater in that program. There was another guy that was close. Ironically, he's probably not doing that well financially either. But I drank a lot. I pissed around when it mattered. Now I'm a dad. You know, and I have people tell me, like, why don't you just try it? Try to quit your job and just stream. If you did it 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, you could build enough of an audience. Could I? Maybe. Am I going to tell my wife and kid when I can't pay the mortgage? Well, sorry, I tried. So I'm just going to take the guaranteed income. You know? That's how it's got to be. And if life gets tough and bills go up, which happens, and unexpected expenses, I mean, just to give you an idea, my dog Annabelle, which I've talked about, unfortunately. In fact, I should bring up Annabelle. Anyway, today is Annabelle's birthday. She's 13 years old. 13 years young for my old fat Beagle Boston Terrier mix. She's a fantastic dog. Smartest dog I've ever had. Terrible, though. She just knows there's no consequences. I didn't train her correctly, but I kind of love that about her. She's like a person. She's smarter than me half the time. Unfortunately for Annabelle, she's got some serious health stuff. It's not causing her pain. She's still active, but she's got a big lump that they're unable to take care of because she's got enzyme problems that they're afraid to put her to sleep to do surgery to remove the lump. And then a scan of her liver shows she probably has cancer. I kept taking her back to the vet, and they're basically like, there's nothing we could do. Each trip to the vet, they're giving us all these vitamins, all these medications and stuff, and they're just not helping her enzyme levels or anything. It's like $500 a pop every time I take her. And I'm not someone that's made of money. So you put $1,500 into that, you know, and then I got weddings and stuff. And that's cost me thousands of dollars. And then other little things like trying to pay off our car note and stuff like that. We tried to put a little extra towards that. And we had these trips with Hank. I'm trying to do stuff with Hank. I try to make sure I'm getting him out to like special events at least every other week. So we do a lot of going to the library, things of that nature. But we like to take him to the zoo. We took him out to the water park and stuff. So it adds up financially, and then, you know, so you got to work. And then you got to work because people call off, so you got to work. And you can't be mad that people are calling off. I mean, for God's sakes. And groceries are going up. Everything's going up. Just had to pay taxes. You know, so it's not that I can't use the money, but I'm not saving anything. It'll be like I'll have just no bullshit. We'll have like $30 in our bank account. We have a savings account too, but it doesn't have a lot. But our checking account will have like $30 on my payday. So it'll be like the last 3-4 days of the week before I get paid. It's like, okay, you can't do anything. But it's not terrible. I'm very happy. It's not like trust me, the bills are paid. We're far luckier than most people. So it's not that. I'm just saying in context of streaming, it's difficult because of my job, and I'm not really in a position where I could leave my job and just say, I'm going to roll the dice on the gambling thing. It can't be that way. It just can't. You know, so the best I could do is try to compromise and do what I can. And I thank my editor, Black Elk, who's trying to get material out there for me every day on YouTube at noon to try to keep at least that going. So I appreciate that. Yeah, Christy, no, I don't, whatever. Yeah, she's great. Oh, I'll play you some audio. I won't show you the video, but I think I can play you some audio. Hopefully it comes through. Hank read me a book today. Let's see if you all could guess what the book is. It's a famous book. It's a short book. I am telling you Bidenomics aren't working. Hopefully this comes through the audio here, and see if you can guess what book Hank's reading to me, okay?
Pop out to the egg. One day, they top it over. One apple, 2 pears, 3 plums, 2 strawberries, and 5 oranges. One day, he ate a lot of fruit, 1 lemon, 1 cupcake, 1 sausage, 1 cake, 1 lolly,
Does anyone have a guess? Thank you so much, Todd Sullivan. $50 super chat. Video game controller punches and kicks between the words super effective. It was a sticker, but it shows up above it. Thank you so much, Todd Sullivan. I really appreciate it. It wasn't a recipe book. It sounds like there's a lot of food. You're right about that. Listen to the very end. It might help you. So he says there at the end, and then he was a beautiful butterfly. Does that help anyone? I don't know how famous this book is. I knew the book when I was a kid. It's a good little kid book. Eating a bunch of food, and then it was a beautiful butterfly. Does anyone have a guess? Yeah, you could see the cover. I remember the cover too. Yes, No Bull Savage. It was a very hungry caterpillar. Yeah, it's like his favorite book. I read it to him a couple times today, and then he wanted to read it. So yeah, he's reading. And at the beginning, it says he ate 1 apple, then he ate 2 pears and 3 plums and 4 strawberries and 5 oranges, and then the next day he ate, and it lists a bunch of food. Thank you so much, David, for the grind. Thank you, appreciate it. Not the Communist Manifesto. Yeah, the Communist caterpillar went to the food. What was it? Went to the bread line. Unfortunately, he was late. There was none there. But Bernie was happy that bread lines existed. They're a good thing. What's up, old Joe? Giving tree is sad. Thank you, Todd Sullivan. I really appreciate it. So, I'm going to head out tonight. I'll be back on tomorrow. It's going to be a good show. Tomorrow, tomorrow we won't be... You missed it, Aircraft. We had a lot going on tonight. So, no, my back, not that type of grinding, though my back is killing me and I'm trying to get into, that's another thing. I don't even have a day to get to the doctor's office so they can tell me what's wrong with my back. Ugh. So hopefully I find a day to do that. I might have to tell one of the people I work with disabilities, like, hey man, you want to take a trip to the doctor's office? So I get my back looked at. Tomorrow we're going to talk about the James O'Keefe video. Spoiler alert, it basically is someone that was employed by the CIA admitting that the CIA and every other intel agency in the government intentionally lied to Trump because they still claim that he is an asset of Russia. My brother's eye's doing okay. Unfortunately, there's not been a lot of progress. He had the surgery and they're hoping that eventually leads to him having less spots and less light flashes in his eye, but currently he says it doesn't seem that it's been helping him. So... drink water, anti-inflammatories. That's what I'm trying, man. I am. Call into a lefty stream. Like who? I look all the time. I'm always looking on Discord to see who's on while I'm streaming. No one's on right now. I think EOD's on, but he's a righty. Hutch isn't on. Destiny, you can't call in. JTSLK was on. But there's not a lot. If I'm honest. To be fair, no one wants to really debate me anymore. I don't know if Dylan's on or not. He's probably in Ukraine cheering on more violence. But yeah, now I debate right-wingers and smack them around. What's Sparky want to debate on? We'll set up a me and Sparky debate. What's the topic? Water and anti-inflammatories. More hate speech. I might have to concede. Supporting Ukraine aid is supporting slavery. Sort of. I think I could probably get the argument that you're saying. Which the argument's basically us giving aid forces that meat grinder to continue, which is them fighting for something that we ultimately say will benefit us, which we know won't help them in the long run, which is a form of slavery. I'm guessing is where you're going with that. Right. They're now couple of countries in Europe have actually made agreements with Ukraine that they're sending people that have escaped Ukraine back to be drafted or punished. But hey, we sent them money. Cool. Who did this, by the way? This is awesome. Rust in Peace. Title of the video. In response to the title of my video, who killed Jesus? This is what they put. This is pretty funny. Oh. This is good stuff.
Damn those Christians! Damn those white people! Damn those men! Damn those Christians! Damn those white people!
That is a great clip. I'm going to have to use that a lot. Oh, the Uyghurs. That's Uighurs. Yeah. Vita says, $5. Thank you so much. Super chat. What's my take on Chrissy Nome killing her dog? All right. Full disclosure here. I have not read the entire story. I don't know the circumstance. I believe the dog was a puppy, right? And it seemed as if the dog was attacking things. Now, I'm going to say something that maybe dog lovers won't like. I have personally been in situations where dogs have been shot. However, I have not seen a dog shot in that sense. I've seen a dog shot in the sense that it's dying. That it was hit by a car and was laying on the side of the road. And so it was more of a mercy killing because it was evident based on the condition of the dog. Now, it wasn't me, but I don't think that's the circumstance that Nome's talking about, though, right? This wasn't like an Old Yeller situation, right? It seemed to be more of, yeah, is that what it was? That this 18-year-old dog was killing chickens, and so they shot the dog. I don't know that it's as evil as some people are saying. I can understand that. If you live on a farm, things are different. I'll tell you a brief story in a second. But Zen says, more shekels for me. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm going to tell you right now, one of the most insane crybaby things. I've shot deer. I have. Shekels was good, yeah. Yeah, go Rams, yeah. So when I was getting married, we decided to, my in-laws have a small farm, and we decided to buy some pigs that we were going to then butcher for the wedding and for a couple other events, like a New Year's party or something like that. So we got these pigs, and they're fine pigs. They had a great life. And in this big fenced-in area, we would feed and water them. Most of the time I wasn't there, but they were well taken care of, treated well in their life. One of the pigs was butchered. So it was time to basically get the second pig out and kill it, butcher it. That pig knew. Like, I had to leave. I couldn't do it. It was... Am I crying? No, not really. And pigs are smart, man. Like, cows are dumb. But pigs are smart. And it knew. It tried to run away. It was a mess. I was like... Now, the pig was killed humanely in a proper way. And I respect the people that do that. Like I said, I've shot deer. I've killed deer. I've helped process a deer. But that pig got me, man. It did. And that pig, in my eyes, that's very similar intelligence-wise to a dog. Yeah, that's different. If a dog's attacking you and you're defending yourself, that's clearly different. So, you know. But I'm just saying, I know that when it comes to animals, people have this, like, really crazy... Like, people will, like beat you to death for abusing an animal, where if they see you abusing your child, they'll be like, well, that's not good. Like, it's crazy. People's emotional attachment to animals and how far they're willing to go. Like, any mistreatment of a person still worse than an equivalent mistreatment of an animal. But I'm also against animal abuse. Right. Dog, pig, Visco. Right, Zen. You got it. In fact, I would hire a pig as my lawyer. Anyways, you don't understand if you live on a farm. I don't understand. My father-in-law, when he was, up until he was like 20, he lived on a pig farm. And I was like, how could you spend time with these pigs every day? And they're like, he loved it. Loved the pigs. Loved them. But when it's time to butcher, it's time to butcher. I was like, how could you do that? They lived a good life. That was the purpose. So, can I envision a farmer that I know, a dog attacking their chickens and them shooting it? Yeah, I could see it. I don't know that they would write that story in an autobiography as they're trying to run for vice president. I think it speaks more to her intelligence than it does to her morality, if I'm honest. But again, I didn't read the particular story, so I can't really comment. I'm just saying, hypothetically, I could see a situation where not good, but not as bad as people. Who's going to feed them hogs? Yeah. Well, that's a great Norm, talking about pictures of the 18th century. All right, let's raid someone. Let me get down and hang out with my wife, who I've barely seen all week. And I'm not going to see for a while, unfortunately. Who are we going to raid tonight? Oh, we got EOD, Pentuple, Tiberius, and Sparky. Well, seeing he was out here and challenged me to a debate, we'll raid Sparky. Though those are all good choices. Was there RimWorld music? I don't know. Sorry. By the way, I really enjoyed EOD as my partner there the other night. Yeah, the poor pig. Didn't make it. He was a nice pig, though. It's a tough question. I had people, in my life give me crap for that. And it's like, but you eat pork. At least this pig was raised and killed humanely. But yeah, that doesn't mean it's tough. It's tough when you start to get into that. EOD probably... Oh, he's destroying Tiberius? Shit, I didn't know that. I would have jumped in on EOD if I knew he was destroying Tiberius. I don't know what... Tiberius, it's a shame. I guess he's just an edgelord now. Good for him. All right, man. I'm going to head out. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Should be on around 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. We'll be talking some of that James O'Keefe video. Let's see if we can get a lefty to come in and... Too much right on right debate lately. Let's debate some lefties. Smack them around. If you got any suggestions or if you know any lefties that want to debate, throw them my way. We'll bring on any comers tomorrow. They can pick the topic. I don't care. They bring their friends. Also don't care. It doesn't matter to me. So thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy this raid of Aircraft Sparky. As always, have a good one.